Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Capricorn season, which runs, as you know, from December 2025 to January 2026. I hope you are well. I'm using the 777 Tarot for you here today. It's Bulgarian deck. It's absolutely stunning. Anywho, things to tell you before we begin. If the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via the first link in the description box below. That first link will take you to Self-Buy, which is where you can buy the individual extended. But if you would like to check out more of my extended content, which is not just the extendeds for each of the signs for each season, but also weekly energy readings and whatever it pops into my head to make videos about, then you might have you might find more of what you want over at my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, on the Circle platform. And if you join at the higher tier, then you can come participate in the classes that we run over there and get access to all the past recordings of classes that we ran right the way over 2025. I am also running a 7-day free trial, so come along. Costs you nothing to see if it's something that you would be interested in. If not, no shade. If it is, though, I think it's a good place to hang out. So anyway, let's get on with this Sagittarius. Now, normally here we would be talking about your recent past, and I usually say that could be any time from this morning to about 6 weeks back, but actually this part here has been functioning as somewhat of a retrospective over 2025, which is to say sort of trying to work out what the fucking point of the whole year was, which I don't know about you, but I'm still very much unpacking and processing it. So we're going to pull 3 cards for that section there, and actually we will pull 3 more for the present and for the rest of Capricorn season 2. So let's have a look. Cards for Sagittarius, please. Right, okay, so we have the Justice card and we have the Death card. Check out that Death card. Isn't that stunning? One more for 2025, please. Thank you. 7 of Wands has been putting in an appearance for a lot of people in its various forms. Sometimes it's not showing up in the upright, but it seems to be a pretty consistent energy that's been showing up. What about current energy for Sagittarians, please? We have the Ace of Pentacles. Lovely. That also has been putting in an appearance for a lot of people. We also have, let's have a look, Queen of Swords in reverse and the Four of Swords in reverse. All right, let's have a look. Fucking hell, twizzling cards everywhere. Right, 7 of Pentacles is reversed for Capricorn season, and lovely, we have the Hermit and we have the Ace of Swords. At the bottom of the deck we have the 9 of Pentacles, and I like this very much, not least because it seems to suggest that the point of this year was digging deep, or point of last year was digging deep in oneself, allowing the transformation that actually all of us have been through, albeit, well, not albeit anything really. I think when we talk about, you know, transformations, particularly when it involves transformation of consciousness, we assume that there would be a levity with it, or not even a levity, but right, a lightness associated with it. But actually the process of transmuting oneself is a pretty arduous process, and it's only really when we emerge from the other side that we can start to feel that lighter energy. I mean, certainly the transformational process itself is pretty heavy. We've got a lot of that energy in 2025 for you, but we definitely have a sense of turning a corner here, with the energy of the moment, with the Ace of Pentacles right there, but also, you know, the rest of Capricorn season, we've got double aces showing up, which I really, really like. But again, to come back to the point that I was going to make initially, this 9 of Pentacles, it's like, where are your resources and how do you best utilize them? Because the chances are the resources that you thought you had at your disposal have too gone through some sort of transformational process. And things that were important may not seem quite as important as they used to be. And equally, things that you had sort of dismissed and disregarded, even within yourself, may now be coming to the fore as a source of some value to you. Ultimately, the 9 of Pentacles is, as you know, I assume all Sagittarians would like, a card of independence, a card of sovereignty, in fact. But in order to be sovereign, in order to be autonomous, you need to be able to put your hands on your resources. And I think, yeah, I think they're different to what you thought they were. So let's start over here. We've got the Justice card, we've got the Death card, and we've got the Seven of Wands. Like I said, that Seven of Wands has been showing up for a lot of people. I think you are the only sign so far, and you're the penultimate side I'm reading for, actually, who has had the Death card come up. I actually don't think the Death card's come up anywhere in anybody's reading yet. So, you know, solid transformation of state going on. But it's here with the Justice card as well. So, you know, whenever the Justice card comes up, we do have issues of karma being suggested, which is not good or bad. It is neutral. It's the consequences of your actions, right? But a certain alignment with who you are to become rather than who you are right now, right? And this Seven of Wands, a card very much of courage and bravery and standing up for what you believe in. I mean, it could be your belief structure itself that's been going through the metamorphosis, Sagittarius, which would be profound for you. You know, when we talk about things like belief, we're usually talking either from, you know, the perspective of Pisces or Sagittarius. Pisces being the much more internal kind of acceptance, and Sagittarius being a little bit more outward in that expansive that way, you know. But let's get some clarifiers out here. Tell me about this. Right, Five of Wands showing up. I'm going to take that as a reversal. Oh goodness, right. So Eight of Swords, Page of Wands, King of Swords, Ace of Pentacles. Lovely. I like that very much. Let's get some clarifiers for these as well. Whoop. Justice again. We're sensing a bit of a theme here. How interesting. How interesting. Usually the signs that are at the end of the reading cycle are the ones that have the most profound things going on. I don't make the rules, it's just something that I've noticed over a period of time. And I had it in the back of my head that there was something big going on with Sagittarius. Now, to be fair, there's very little going on, I think, at this point in the sky in terms of planets that are sitting in Sagittarius. But obviously, we do have everything pushing towards that 0 point Aries, and that is going to feed you elementally, at least. But the funny thing is, well, we've got a sense of a struggle that has been persevered with, and you've kind of worked your way through over here, and I will speak to this a little bit more in depth in a moment. It seems like the biggest changes are yet to come for you, Sagittarius. Now, most Sagittarians that I've ever met are pretty unflappable, to be honest. When you live life at extremes, as Sagittarians invariably do, right, there's very little that comes along that surprises you. It's just part of your makeup, right? You expect the unexpected, and, you know, with the ability to be as responsive as Sagittarius is, right? You know, like the Knight of Swords may be faster, and that's Gemini, right? Maybe faster than the Knight of Wands, but the Knight of Wands can come to a screeching halt and change direction, and we don't get that impression from the Knight of Swords, right? There's almost like a linearity with the Knight of Swords. It's going from A to B as fast as possible. Well, the Knight of Wands will go from A to Z, back to B, and then across to M, and do all of this before maybe even it's occurred to the Knight of Swords that he should change direction, right? It's that pivot and the bounce and being able to spin on a sixpence. You may be experiencing this right now, or it may be very close to coming in, Sag. But let's talk about these over here first. I'm going to shove this over so you can actually see what's going on, right? So we've got justice, and this is important because justice is showing up a number of times in the reading for you, right? And we've got those things that I was talking about. We've got karma, we've got a sense of destiny, we've got the universe going through an equilibrium-inducing process, right? We've got a breakdown of order and the emergence of a new order that's coming through. Now, from what I'm reading here, what I'm looking at here, there is a combination of different things all going on at once with you. We've seen a rapid maturation, right? An ease of tapping into wisdom that you may not have had quite as easily before. Like it just seems to come, it just seems to flow. We've got the natural bravery and courage that we would associate with any of the fire signs, right? But there's this rebirth process that both of these things have gone through. Now, it's not strong enough to say it's simply a maturation. Something fairly pivotal has changed here, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. But it's quite possible that what it is, actually, looking at these clarifiers, is being able to turn down the noise on the internal inner critic, the negativity, something, right? Sagittarians, they're not, on first glance, particularly warlike. But from what I can gather, and I've known a lot of Sagittarians, they are constantly at war with themselves. There's some sort of internal war that they don't really speak about, that they tend to be having with themselves. And they don't broadcast it because why would they? Why would they? It's nobody else's business, right? But at the same time, Sagittarius is the only sign that's ever depicted with a weapon. Now, looking at this, it feels more like you have stopped taking everything out on yourself. And you've moved into this space that is now entirely what it is. Which is to say, it's less about the things that you would usually castigate yourself for. It's balanced. There's an internal harmony now that feels quite novel for you, but you had to struggle to get there. I mean, that Eight of Swords, you know, the Sagittarian capacity for overthinking is I think well documented, although it's not talked about very often. And what we've seen is a push where the way that you used to do things, or the way that you used to think about things, simply will not do anymore, right? Now, you had a couple of years of having to learn how to dig in, right? Because the pivot is a superpower, and of course, you know, you can default to that wherever necessary. But learning to be consistent, learning to dig in, learning that, you know, sometimes you can't simply outrun a problem, but you've got to really lock in on it instead. This has been part of the chop wood, carry water, you know, process of enlightenment that you've been going through. It feels a little bit like the cards are suggesting here that you found the perfect balance, right? You found the discerning point so that you can balance on the head of a pin and go, well, one situation may require the pivot, another situation may require me to dig in. Whichever is necessary, I can discern that, and then I can do it. You know, you've trained up that bit of you that was perhaps a little less skillful to now be able to be as competent as the pivot, because you've turned down the noise on something internally. That much is clear. And you've recognized where sometimes your overthinking is the problem itself rather than what you're trying to work out. It's like everything can be fixed with movement, I think. But it's making it less erratic. So there's something a little bit more purposeful about the things that you do now, and there's something a little bit more set in stone about the decisions that you're making now, right? You know, for me, if we talk about about Libra as having great discernment, right, and the Justice card is represented by Libra, then it stands to reason that the Libra Major Arcana card would speak to great discernment and great balance. Like, you feel like you are more aware of who you are now than you've ever been in your life. And all of the things that were popping up as obstructions to that, and you know, we could definitely include things like childhood trauma and the things that you become aware of over the last few years in that, they don't get to have a say about what you do next. I hope I'm not jumping around too much here for you, Sagittarius, because I think there's something really, really simple that's happened in so much as you have just simplified everything. But at the same time, it's quite complex and layered in terms of how it's happened. The end result is, the TLDR essentially, is that your discernment's tip-top, your balance is just right. And whatever happens from this point on, you feel to me to be extraordinarily competent in being able to deal with that. But it didn't come easily. Page of Swords in reverse. And Ace of Cups. The Death card is again at the bottom of the deck. This Ace of Cups is about the relationship with yourself, which by extension is the relationship that you have with God, Source, the Creator, the universe, whatever your terminology is for it, right? The relationship that you have with yourself, particularly that conducted at a subconscious level, that's where you, as a spirit living a human existence, get to speak to the rest of the cosmos, right? It is the conscious mind generally that gets in the way of that. And it feels like you've nailed whatever the issue was, right? The ways in which you have quite literally got in your own way. These are shifting because there isn't a sense of needing any more information. It's like you've got what you need and you've unpicked what you had to, and now you feel considerably better about the relationship with yourself. It's sort of kind of easier in accepting your own weaknesses. Weaknesses in air quotes, right? But the stuff that's just not quite as competent as everything else. Like, you've spent a couple of years chopping wood and carrying water, and now what was difficult for you is actually as easy as pivoting. There's something very, very fresh about the way that you have been reborn over the entirety of 2025. And we know this because we've got aces showing up everywhere. I'm almost certain you've got more aces than any other sign I've read for, and the Death card twice. And could it be that because we've moved into this period now where, you know, the breakdown is accelerating, before too much longer, all we're going to have is a vision. All we're going to have is faith. All we're going to have is hope. And it falls to Sagittarius to be the embodiment of the archetype, right? Of what it looks like to have nothing but to dream, to have nothing but to have faith, to have nothing but to have, you know, to have no structure, have a shit ton of disorder and chaos, right? But still an ability to be able to feel your way through, like a cosmic GPS. This is absolutely fascinating. There's something very connected about you now, Sag. And the wisdom, the wisdom is strong, right? But when we move into your current energy over here, we've got the Ace of Pentacles showing up again, right? It's kind of segued beautifully over here. But we've got the Queen of Swords in reverse, and we've also got the Four of Swords in reverse. And this is interesting because it speaks to a level of agitation in the mind. Well, that makes it sound like it's not peaceful, right? And the Four of Swords in reverse could be a state of not being peaceful, right? So like there's a lot of mental activity going on that you don't really understand. Now, let me be clear here, Sagittarius, right? These two cards here together, quite often when they show up in tandem, they're talking about massive spiritual awakenings, like, fuck, you know, my whole paradigm has been shattered, right? The long dark nights of the soul that we are involuntarily catapulted into, right? However the spiritual awakening happens, right? The High Priestess and the Tower is often a combination that denotes that, right? We've got the High Priestess drawing down the wisdom from the ether, and we've got the paradigm shattering effect of the Tower on one's sense of reality right now, right? Gets bust right wide open. With the Justice card there, one would assume that this is I'm troubled by the word fated, right? But it's a destined thing that's due to happen. The thing is, there's nothing in what you are that we've talked about already that would suggest that a massive spiritual awakening would even be necessary for you right now. Like, you're already, you know, considerably more expansive in terms of what you believe to be possible than your average bear. So this leads me to believe then that what we're looking at here is more of an acceptance that there are things going on beyond your comprehension, and that very, very soon, if not happening already, there will come a point where you will be helping others navigate this, because this isn't yours. You've already been there, you've done that, you've transformed in the face of it. So here, Ace of Pentacles, it's about putting in the effort, putting in the attention, like seeding something here that you don't really understand the edges of, and that certainly doesn't feel peaceful. But I mean, who's to say that it's not about whether you understand it or not, it's about whether other people understand it? Because then that would certainly suggest why there's so much mental agitation, but it's not coming from you. Now, Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck is the creation of a new foundation, right? It's an Aries card right there, and it is incredibly creative, it's expressive, it is a card of home, right? It's that deep in terms of the foundational underpinning of life, right? Here with the Ace of Pentacles, it's sustained concentration, sustained focus going into the act of creating something, right? In the face of confusion and awakenings of other people. I did wonder if the reason why these last signs were going to be a little bit funky was because as we get closer to the point of astrological turbulence, there were going to be things that you were dealing with that other people might not have been coming into contact with. Right, the Fool is here. It's representing the start of new cycles, but it's on its side, so they're not here yet. They're just getting ready to shuffle into view. We have the Seven of Pentacles, right, where we have situations that are not giving us the fruit, the yield that we want. It is it's a less than optimal situation. And when the Seven of Pentacles shows up in the upright, sometimes we don't know what it is that's wrong. We just got that feeling that something's not quite right. When it shows up in the reverse, as over here, then we have a very clear sense of what is not right, what is not okay, right? So in both of these instances, what we've got is these energies that are kind of shuffling into place, but not yet fully realized, right? Not yet fully activated. If you're sensitive, and Sagittarians generally are, you got a sense of these kind of blowing in on the wind. Right? And you can smell it or hear it or whatever. But this Ten of Swords is showing where the cognitive crisis needs to hit first. In short, Sag, you seem to be getting a bit of a head start on putting things in place to navigate what happens next for people, right? I ran a class on the negative cards in the tarot a few months ago, and I put almost the entire suit of swords in there because to my mind, the way that we evolve and change and grow is through the suit of swords and this lurch towards cognitive crisis that just happens again and again and again, right? And this is how we change our belief systems. This is how we, expand our idea of what the world is and what the world can be, and so on and so forth, right? But when we hit a point where we realize the limits of our own thinking, that is so confrontational that not everybody goes out looking for that kind of thing, right? It's usually involuntarily lands on our fucking lap, and we're faced with things that are causing this, what's it called? Cognitive dissonance. I mean, like, these two things can't be true. I want them both to be true, but they can't both be true. So, I am either going to have to double down on what I was saying or doing or thinking before and pretend that I haven't come across this information, or I need to change my mind. And depending on how deeply you are reliant on not changing your mind, right? If the ego says it's not a good thing for you to do to change your mind or your beliefs or whatever, then that's going to be pretty crushing. What do we have underneath there? Two of Cups. What I'm trying to say is you don't get a new start before things hit a very uncomfortable point of ending. Now, it makes much more sense to me that the Ten of Swords, the Queen of Swords, and the Four of Swords, reversed as they are, is actually what other people are going through. Can't have a beginning before we've tidied up the endings. And Justice, High Priestess, and the Tower is other people about to get zapped with paradigm-shattering shit. Which, as we know, is good because we need a new start. We need a refreshing of the energy, right? But this Ten of Swords is the catalyst. Now, I don't think you're being necessarily positioned, Sagittarius. I think that's the wrong way of talking about it. But you are kind of being positioned, right? I'm not saying that You're being told to be in this shop at this time to meet this person and change their life, like some sort of guardian angel, right? But there's a sense of you being positioned, ready to start doing the work with other people, or start showing people how to do the work. Because there ain't no way, Sag, that you're getting hit with this. Nah. You've done too much work in the last few years for anything to ambush you like that. This is other people. We've essentially got the collective experience, and you having the jump on the collective experience, ready to start hoovering up the people who are going to need help processing paradigm shifts, right? Now, when we come to the rest of Capricorn season, I think we've got it played out quite well here. We've got the Seven of Pentacles in reverse, we've got the Ace of Swords, and we've got the Hermit. Now, you know exactly what's wrong. You know exactly what needs to change. That's the essence of the Seven of Pentacles in reverse, right? Where other people don't, you see the truth. Where other people don't, they don't understand. You can process. Look at this Hermit card, isn't it astonishing? Where other people cannot. You know, the Hermit he's a wise old sage, and to some extent he is concerned with his own internal journey, right? Looking for the internal truths and whatnot. But mindful of what I said about this being the point of connection that you have with the universe, okay? But sometimes the Hermit is also a teacher, a leader, a guide. And it feels like, as I am recording this, that everything's starting, that the springs are starting to tighten up, you know, on these, not just the big astrological movements that are happening, but, you know, the collective consciousness, the collective tension. Four of Pentacles in reverse, Touche, the Magician, the Knight of Swords, the Fool. I mean, it's Sagittarius. You have a very fucking important job to do here. Not least to help people shape reality. You know, one of the reasons why it's so significant to have Sagittarius as a teacher, leader, guide is that inbuilt optimism, that inbuilt hope, that inbuilt ability to retain faith when it seems like everything is hopeless. Because I think everybody's going to start getting a taste of that very, very soon, right? And here you are going, but that's not the end. It's not the end of the story, because it moves beyond this. There are more things that happen after this, and we need to imagine it, and we need to structure things, and we're going to do this and that and the other. Like, I don't see you standing in in your local park on a soapbox, like, you know, lecturing at people. But I do think that there is a point here that you're moving towards, and it's really in the next couple of weeks where people are coming to you for advice. People are coming to you for, how the fuck are you staying so sane? How the fuck are you able to be so sunny? How do you have faith? How do you do all of these things, right? And here is your opportunity to spread the truth, spread the word, because attachment is, at least in Buddhist theory, right, part of it's the source of all suffering. Four of Pentacles in reverse is, you know, we're not hanging on to anything. We're quite happy to let everything be renewed, reborn, reimagined, right? But in order to do that, we have to make space. Well, we've seen twice that you've been making space here. We've got the double death card showing up here for you, right? Now, imagine that there are people who are nowhere near as connected as to source as you are, right? Universe, creator, whatever. Because Sagittarians do flow closer to the energetic rhythms of the universe. Well, you just do. You and Pisces, you just do. Imagine people without that kind of internal knowledge. just by being yourself, you're already standing out, Sagittarius, and this just is just going to stack. It's almost like you can't get away from it. Not that I think that you want to. I think you're quite happy to be there for people. You're not going to go chasing them and proselytizing at them, whatnot. But where people start to get confused, where people start to perceive the truth of how much is disappearing. Knight of Cups, Three of Swords at the bottom of the deck, right? The puncturing of the illusion. They're going to seek you out for your counsel. They're going to seek you out to explain what the fuck is going on. And some of the things that you could have said that might have sounded a little bit out there a year ago, Sagittarius, I think they're going to fall on really receptive ears. Because increasingly I'm seeing people confused, a little scared, very destabilized. And you bet your ass that people are going to start looking around for people who can help. Now again, you know, I'm not saying you have to quit your job, go be a guru or anything like that. It's just friends, it's family, it's people within your sphere of influence. But I feel like the universe is going to be sending even more people into your sphere of influence than perhaps you expected. Because there's a definite sense that you are exactly where you need to be. And you're ready to dispense the wisdom, right? You've been through the rebirth process. You created the space, and now you're holding space. And you're ready to communicate the truth to anybody who will listen. And certainly from this point onwards, I think there are more people listening than you might credit. And the extent to which you are able to show people that they are able to create their own reality, create their own opportunities, to create their own luck to some extent. I don't think it's putting too strong a sentiment on it to say you really are acting as an agent of the universe here. Teacher, leader, guide, you know. I don't know, Sagittarius were a little bit like, I don't really want to do that, don't really want to be in a position of authority about, but it's kind of not like that, right? You're an authority in being you. And I think that you know enough to show people how to be them and how to release what is no longer part of reality, right? And everybody's going to see that before too long. But the faith, and trust, the wisdom, the communication with the cosmos, the creation, even if it's as simple as showing people where they see destruction and you see opportunity, right? Littlefinger from fucking House of Thrones, right? Chaos is a ladder. Was a little bit Machiavellian when he said it, but you know, there's a grain of truth in that, albeit kind of nefarious. So if we flip it around and look at it from the, you know, from a Sagittarian perspective, you're not just witnessing history, you get to be a part of it. So what do you want it to look like? Right? Release your need for everything to be as it was, because the world has changed. We just haven't quite caught up to it yet, but people will start catching up to it very, very soon. So what do you want? What do you want everything to be like? Do you want a techno dystopia, or do you want something else? A real sense of you stepping into your own here, Sagittarius. And the funny thing is, it's not all bells and whistles and drama and any of that lot. It's just you. It's just you being you. You have no idea how fucking helpful you being you is right now, and will continue to be over the course of 2026. I think you might get a sense of it. I think you'll start to see it before too long. It's not whether or not you feel like you're an expert enough to say things. It's about recognizing that somehow or other, through your own personal work and your own willingness to engage with your own transformations and stuff, you've ended up a few steps ahead of everybody else. And now is where you turn around and offer your hand to help people bridge the gap, you know? It feels very strongly like that's what's happening here. So, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to go to the extended. If you would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. We're going to look at this and really kind of hone in on what this is all about. Yeah, you can join me on Southlight, or you can come over to the Order of the Phoenix. I'd be delighted to see you in either place, but it's entirely down to you. If that's not your thing, I completely understand. What can I say, Sag? I mean, you're on track. You're doing exactly everything exactly correct. So you get a gold star and all that sort of stuff. I'm proud of you. This is really strong, but it's strong without the what? Without the signalling. I think I'm fucking bored of people signalling shit. Like, this is embodiment. That's far more impressive. Alright, and I'll leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.